Redditors who at any point have been in such a deep state of depression that you didn't want to do anything, what is something that helped you get out of it? I'm so ashamed of my depression that the fear of my family finding out makes me act as normally as possible. Heart jumped out of my chest when I read this. I felt this way for years. If you have family who care about you, tell them. This is an illness potentially worse than any other. Let go of the shame and you can start to feel better. Another hard lesson for me to swallow was that if your family want to help you, let them even if the thought horrifies you. Whatever the case, there is a whole thread of people here. You are not alone. I want to tell people but I just can't. What's holding you back? For me it was like I was admitting weakness when the expectations I felt from everyone around me were so high. You don't need to let anyone know you're getting help, from a doctor or whatever, but the people closest to you will usually be grateful if you include them. When I told my family I broke down and was encouraged to talk to my GP, I'm in the UK, I was prescribed citalopram which didn't help but then was given modafinil and that really helped a lot. The truth is depression really messes with your head. I expected the worst from my family, and instead sharing brought us all closer. For me it's that my parents always made it known they didn't believe in being depressed. They're extremely conservative Christians, for reference. That sounds really tough. I can't say I know what your experience is like personally, but as someone with experience on all sides of behavioral health, as a patient, family member, and provider, I can tell you that in my experience, regardless of pre-existing notions, all families would rather know the truth and have the opportunity to support a member than find out after it's too late. I'm not telling you what to do, but please get help when you know you can't keep up the act. That's the best way you can care for your family and yourself. For what it's worth, I have a friend in a similar situation and finding a more open-minded church really helped him, along with therapy. Reach out if you ever need something. Wishing you all the best, 2 hearts. Anyone who I have ever told about my depression has changed how they act around me to a massive degree. Suddenly I'm being treated with kid gloves. Friends whose friendships I relied on no longer treated me the same. It's not malicious, just as simple as an old friend not feeling comfortable cracking jokes about you, when it's never been a moment of consideration before. I'm not worried about my family finding out because I'm ashamed. I don't want them to find out because not being treated like a freak is one of the only solaces I have left. The kid gloves go on. The honeyed voices come out with the platitudes. We're all here for you. We all love you. We're here if you need to talk. And these are the same people who you wouldn't hear from if you stopped being the one to reach out first. Or they get tired of being around you because you're sad all the time and really bring everything down. Reading about other people being depressed seems to help for some weird reason. You are not alone said often but seldom really heard. Same. I fell in love with Jodi Picoult books during a long bout of depression. Misery loves company? If I may be a know-it-all and point out that the phrase misery loves company is often misused. It does not mean that people who are miserable want to be around other miserable people so much so that it means miserable people will attempt to make other people miserable because they are suffering and want to take it out on others, though it can be used for both. This is not a statement, by myself, at the state of the thread here, but I just wanted to shed some light on the true meaning of that phrase. I dragged myself out of bed and went for a walk with my little cousin. Having him hand me flowers and point out planes was the most hopeful thing I've ever experienced. It was if I was seeing the world from his joyful perspective, instead of through my own hopeless one. Edit. Wow, thank you for all the upvotes. It's amazing the curiosity of kids. They don't know the pain of depression and their simple joys can be contagious. I would caution that depression presents differently in children. They may not be able to articulate it like an adult, but they can certainly experience intense and overwhelming psychological distress. I was often told I was being too quiet. I learned the word for it later. It was depressed. I was depressed. Edit, words. Yo, same, my family called me everywhere and made fun of me for being gloom and doom. I was 11. When described like that, it sounds so absurd. Like if a kid is bleeding heavily and his parents poke him in the wound calling him moisty and leaky with an implication that the kid must fix himself and stop being so inappropriate and abnormal. They must have loved you, well-behaved quiet kid. Doesn't ask anything, etc. Been there. To be honest, I don't think it only applies to children. I'm turning 24 tomorrow, and in the beginning of the year we had assessments of how we did the previous year at work. It goes on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is the lowest, and if you get 1 you're either getting fired or transferred to a different job within the company. Most people get 3 because the bosses are lazy and they don't care about the workers enough to actually think if you've done well or not. I've been working there for about half a year, and generally everyone who works for less than a year gets a 3 unless they are a really crappy worker, then they get a 2. But to my surprise I got a 4, and when my boss explained to me why I got a 4, he said that I was a quiet worker and I never ask for anything, I just come to work, so my job, and go home, and that's what he expects from everyone there. I've never felt worse about getting a good assessment before in my life. This exactly. The start of the pandemic, my then 4-year-old started stuttering out of nowhere. Calming her and not being alarmed or making our life that different as much as possible seemed to help. It's that true beauty of the innocence of children. I was in a really bad place, but I had promised my niece she could come and stay with me a few months before, and she did, and I could not smile at her when she smiled at me and was so excited to be around me. I think smiling makes you feel better, that's what someone somewhere said. I don't think it's right to rely on others for regulating your feelings, but man, she made me feel so important and funny, and she was so excited to see me, and it really made me feel better and get over my slump. I needed that love. She's a good kid and I'll cherish watching her grow. I commit myself to brushing my teeth every morning. I tell myself I don't have to do literally anything else all day, but this one tiny, easy thing I have to do. So I brush my teeth, with full permission to go back to bed and wish I was dead right after. But usually once I've done it, I feel like maybe I can do one more thing today. But that's all. I don't have to do anything else at all today, but I can probably manage to brush my hair. So I do that. And I just keep doing tiny, easy things, and when I can't do anymore, I already gave myself full sincere permission to call it a day, so I lay on the couch and wish I was dead, and sometimes while I'm doing that, I'll think of one more tiny, easy thing I can do, and I'll do that, and maybe a couple other things. I want to be clear that it's not about tricking myself into being productive. It's about being accepting of my bad days and giving myself permission to do the absolute minimum until the next day, when I will reevaluate where I'm at and what I can do. I did something similar, but I can't do the same thing because it will cause me to get bored and fall out of habit, because the lie I tell myself is what's the point if everything else falls apart. So I made a list of tasks that needed to get done, numbered it, and rolled a die every when I felt I could do something. That way more stuff got done and there was less time between things like showering, dishes, laundry, etc. Build a tiny bit of momentum, then when you can roll again. Eventually I got enough done that I added call a therapist to the list. One super important thing with this. If you roll the die and it lands on a 4 and you were really hoping for a 6, do the 6th thing. More often than not I was hoping something would happen than forcing myself to do something else. Implement that change really kicked me into high gear. I've read about a similar idea, but haven't tried it myself. But you have 3 lists, one for tasks that take very minimal energy, one that takes a little more, and one for higher energy / mentally healthier days, and for each item you give it a corresponding time. Easy task might be just washing your face, and for 3 minutes. Medium task might be sweep or vacuum the floor for 20 minutes. When you give yourself some time in the morning to evaluate how you're feeling in the morning, you can then decide which list fits your mood and roll a dice to do an activity for the allotted time. Then just relax and maybe you'll feel like doing another later. Similarly, you could just have 3 jars with strips of paper inside so you don't have to mess with the dice. This is great. And it's good to recognize when you need to take a mental break. The last part of your reply really resonates with me. What worked best for me was self-compassion. I used to feel a lot of shame on my bad days when I couldn't force myself to leave my house to go to work. I worried that I wasn't good enough for my job, and not making it to work on those days really reinforced that feeling. That would spiral and make me feel even worse the next day and the day after that, and before I knew it I would call in sick to work for a whole week. My therapist helped me realize that bad days are okay and that I needed to give myself space to heal and recharge. Now I accept that I need to call in sick for mental health days every once in a while, but I actually appreciate those days and use them to practice self-care instead of feeling guilty. The next day I usually feel much better and can get back to work without creating a negativity spiral. I saw an article online about depression recently and how to find ways to work around the lack of motivation. The lead example was this woman who couldn't wash the dishes because of the energy it required, so she just didn't do it and it piled up. The suggestion was just run the dishwasher twice, or something like that. Don't worry if you think a dishwasher can't be run twice. Find little things that work for you to keep life moving along. My trick has always been having a million pairs of underwear, so if I don't feel like doing laundry I can go a really long time but still have clean underpants. Edit, found the link. Web link. Someone on r/odd called this the ADHD tax. Like basically accepting your unique limitations and finding a way around them, instead of doing things the traditional way and getting stuck. My ADHD tax is similar to yours, but with socks. Somehow washing socks is a struggle for me, so I've purchased lots of them so I won't have to go sockless even when my executive dysfunction kicks in. Reddit link. Fellow ADHD person. The ADHD tax is real. Executive dysfunction tricks, buying the pre-cut up fruits, veggies at the grocery store. If I have to cut it myself, I'll never do it, self-bribery. If I do _thing, I get to buy myself _. It's expensive but motivating. I now go for nearly daily walks because I walk to a bakery and get French pastries. Have someone call me and tell me to do the thing. I'm not intrinsically motivated by myself. But I've had friends be like, "You're not going to do _?" And then I'll usually say fine, I'll do it, and then go do it. ADHD forgetfulness tricks. Leave the thing, toothbrush, veggies, and bills, out on the counter. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind and I'm never getting to it. Put stuff physically in front of my door so I cannot leave the house without interacting with said items. I have a thing with my husband where I tell him I'm stuck and then he tells me what to do. It's stupid, but it somehow works into tricking my brain into executing the instruction. For example, I'm in the bathtub, I'm done with the bath, I'm ready to get out and I'm just not finding the impetus to make myself get out of the bath. Cue I'm stuck to my husband, who then says time to get out of the bath and dry off. And then suddenly when it comes out of someone else's mouth then my brain is okay with it. Stupid brain. At first, my son. I had to get out of bed, he couldn't take care of himself as he was way too young. 2 to 3 years old, but it got worse and worse and worse. I realized it was very bad when he came up to me with his toy car and I had absolutely no energy or desire to even say, "Oh yes. Car." What eventually helped was being dragged to therapy by my aunt. I have had therapy for 2 years. After the first session I went home with one specific idea from my therapist and it helped me most. I put a journal next to my bed and forced myself to write one good thing about / for the day. It started with 30 pages of one line, made breakfast for me and son. Gradually there were 2 things, made breakfast for me and son, got dressed. 2 notebooks later I could write things as thought of a morning routine and eventually completed full morning routine. I have recovered but still have setbacks as I have recurring depression episodes. My son is now 9 years old and he kind of knows what is going on when I have one of the episodes and he knows about the notebooks. To this day I still use them. It has never gotten back to just one line a day. Most beautiful thing? If I can't think of something, my son can think of something. I have even come across some things he wrote down for me without me knowing. They're like secret little surprises to find at night. Those are the best motivators. Edit, holy crap, this comment exploded. Glad to see people might find this helpful. Thanks all. Learning to feel again can help. Sit in the sun and feel the warmth, even if just for a minute. Listen to the wind in the trees or choose a single song and do nothing else while you do it. Eat something without reading or looking at your phone. Stretch gently. Really using your senses again can help remind you of the joy of being alive. I did a mindfulness course which took us through these things. We did a whole session just slowly eating food and experiencing it. It was one of the best things I have done when feeling down. It's cheesy, but I try to make everything in my life like this. Truly experience and enjoy everything I do and take for granted. It's a mindset that's really helped my mental health, and I'm so much happier for trying to love everything I do. Years ago, I was contemplating suicide. Did not want my son to find me. Got an appointment, and got on meds. About 2 or 3 years later, my son's father passed away from a stroke and/or heart attack. My son is the one who found him. I hope you and your son are doing well today. Oh no. I'm so incredibly sorry. I hope your son is doing okay. Good for you, and for you and your son's sake. Just know finding a parent dead from a health issue or natural causes is very different from finding them dead of a suicide. You saved him in a huge way. I think that is the cutest effing imagine I had in my head today. A little son just helping his mama think of all the cool stuff that happened in the day. That's so beautiful. God bless you guys. I hope you can recover. I know it's hard. My dog. Somebody has to take care of her. I feel like dogs help you live in the moment. Yeah, they really do. Especially if you've got an active, routine-oriented dog like I do. She isn't about to let me forget walks, or dinner time, and she wants me to play with her all the time. This kind of just put it into perspective how my dog reacts to me. I would say I have situational depression. Sometimes things will set me off for a week or two, but I can usually come out of it with some work. My dog notices. I mean, I take him out way less and don't play or smile. He knows when I smile though. When I start to come out of it and take him to a dog park, and actually smile at his attempts to pick up sticks, he gets so excited and bounces around and throws sticks at me. He notices when I smile and now I'm crying. Now I'm crying too. Thank you for sharing. I feel this. My dogs are the same, they know. It's more than the smile he notices, sir. This is so pure. I wish I could give your dog the best pets ever. What a good boy. My COVID puppy literally saved me. I was heading to a really dark place with this pandemic. I have a pandemic kitty who has helped me too. My two dogs are honestly the only reason why I interact with people on the daily and have gotten to know and befriend some of the people in my neighborhood. On the days I feel my worst, having to get up and walk them sometimes makes all the difference in my mood, at least temporarily. Also, snuggles. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.